Hi, I'm Nick from the Emergency Management team. Welcome to our yearly briefing on bushfire. In the past, I've given this presentation in person. If you've seen it before, some of it might look a bit familiar, but there is some new stuff. For those who haven't seen our presentations in previous years, we hope you get a lot from it. If you have any questions following, please get in touch, whether those questions are for work in your professional capacity or for yourself, your personal fire planning. It's all good. Myself and the emergency management team are more than happy to help. Today, we're going to cover a number of topics. First of all, information, staying informed. Second, fire danger ratings. Third, our internal policy, fire danger preparedness policy. Then we'll look at your fire plan and options. Next, we'll have a look at shelter options. And then finally, the seasonal outlook. Information is your most important tool in an emergency, and it's usually the one thing that's in short supply. There's a range of places to get information. The best and most reliable is the Vic Emergency app or the website. If you live or work in a bushfire risk area, really the bare minimum you can do to keep yourself safe is to download it and keep the alerts on over summer. It's really simple. You don't need to sign up to it or log into it or anything like that. Just download it, get it going. If you need help setting up the app or customizing alerts, just give me a call. I can talk you through it over the phone. The emergency management team will pass info on to employees for things like elevated fire danger ratings and heat health alerts. We'll do a couple of things. We'll send you an email, we'll post on the Shire wire, and we'll send a text to work mobiles. If you don't have a work mobile, we can send a text to your personal number. Send me an email if you want that to happen. Not everyone has access to all three of these communication methods. So if you supervise staff who don't have access to email, the Shire wire or a mobile, please ensure there are arrangements in place to pass these messages on. Fire danger ratings are a piece of widely available information. They are probably the single most important piece of information you can look for when considering the risk of a particular day. The ratings are available from a number of sources, the Vic Emergency app and the website, the CFA website, some newspapers. You can even set your internet browser to bring up fire danger ratings for you each morning when you open your browser. Just set the Vic Emergency page as one of your startup pages and you automatically check it every day. Google setting startup page for instructions, or I've made a separate video on specifically how to do it. Give me a call if you want a hand. It's really easy to do, really effective way to make sure you check the rating daily. Why are fire danger ratings important? Well, they give an indication of the risk to life and property. The worst days are when we get the worst impacts. The data in this graph is from a CSIRO report. It's the most complete data set of bushfire deaths ever assembled. It shows that 52% of all fatalities occurred on code red days, another 22% on extreme days. So that's like 75%-ish of bushfire deaths occur on days of extreme or code red. That's why we get really worried about those days. Severe days are not without their risk either. Fires will run and houses will burn on severe days. The fire at Wye River in 2015 burned 116 houses. That day, the fire danger rating only just tipped into severe. The days that we get really worried about, they don't occur all that often. Severe, extreme and code red days account for more than 90% of bushfire life loss. They only occur on an average of about 5 days a year. So when we're talking about leaving during high fire dangers, we're not talking about leaving for the summer. It's just a handful of days. You'll see on that chart there that there's an asterisk against code red for last summer. Officially, the forecast on that day for Central District, which we are within, was extreme. But locally, the conditions reached code red. We were aware of that, and because of the risk, the decision was made that the organisation would apply code red protocols from our policies. So the organisation reacted as if the official rating was code red. Okay, now onto our internal policy. The Code Red and Extreme Fire Danger Policy has been updated. It's now the Fire Danger Preparedness Policy. The owner of the policy is People and Culture, so I'll hand over to Leanne Perryman to explain the changes. Thanks, Leanne.
What we've done is we've given consideration to staff who are working from home in bushfire-prone areas, and the policy now contains a principle that employees will not work from home in bushfire risk areas on a Code Red or Extreme Fire Danger Day. So the policy, whilst the policy applies to severe, extreme and Code Red, the working from home arrangements are only relative to an extreme or a Code Red day. So you can work from home on a severe day. We also, in the policy, give consideration for local conditions and changes to fire danger ratings throughout the day. So because of our local conditions, the risk to people within the Surf Coast Shire, or the risk to the Surf Coast Shire of experiencing an event, a fire event, is maybe different. It might be greater or it might be less than the Central District. So it's important that we have a view on what that means for us locally, and there may be times when we change and treat a day that might otherwise have been severe as an extreme day. And we did that last year. Some of you might remember that. We've tried to provide a bit more clarity around that in the policy this time because we know it was confusing last year. We've also considered that more than half of our staff, or about half of our staff, live outside of the Shire. So whilst our policy is very much around how we will deliver services safely within the Shire, now that we've got so many people working from home, we know that we also have to keep an eye on what's happening outside of the Shire. We've got some guidance in the policy on how to, on that, and I know that Nick has got some great instructions and links to a tool that will help you to determine whether you live in an area that has a bushfire overlay. So in summarising that, we won't deliver services in bushfire areas at the highest risk times. So make sure you understand what that means when you have a read through the policy. We won't work from home, but there are some options and I'll talk about those in a minute. We'll provide information to you well in advance and as conditions change so that you understand what we're doing, and that can help you make decisions. And we'll also provide information to the community about the potential impacts to services.
Thanks, Leanne. You mentioned that I can help people to check if they're in a high-risk area. I've made a separate demonstration video for that. Its title is How to Check Bushfire Management Overlay. So check the Shirewire or Trim for that one. Now, Leanne, could you expand a bit further on working from home arrangements for us?
So if our policy says you can't work from home or you will not work from home in a bushfire risk area on a Code Red or Extreme Fire Danger Day, what does that mean for you? Some of you will know already that you don't live in an area that has a bushfire overlay. Some of you might be unsure. So some of you might know that there are some areas in Ocean Grove and around Barwon Heads that have bushfire overlays. So it's really important that we understand, each of us take the responsibility to understand what the bushfire overlay means for us and where we live. So if you can't work from home, then what are your options? So your options are that to take leave to enact your fire plan. So if you think about what would you have done if you were working in the office, that's the same decision that you need to make this time. Would you be taking leave to stay home and enact your fire plan? Enacting your fire plan might just be, I'll stay and be on standby and wait for something to happen. I want to be at home because that's where my pets are. I don't want to have to start driving home if something happens and find that I can't get there. So if that's the case and you want to stay at home, you'll need to take leave to enact your fire plan. The other option that you have is to work from an alternate location that doesn't have a bushfire overlay. So you might have a family member or a friend who lives somewhere that isn't in a bushfire overlay. So perhaps, someone who lives in Torquay, for example, and you can go and work from their home or their location. The third option that you have is that you can book a workstation at the Civic Building. So we're in the process of establishing workplace bubbles and preparing the workplace so that it's COVID safe. What we'll do on those days is that we will make available those workstations for staff who need to relocate, who can't work at home. So to take the option of doing that, to take the opportunity to work at the Civic building on those days, there'll be a process where you contact Emily Whelan or Maxine Baisley and ask to book a workstation. You'll then be required to check in upon arrival so that we know that you've got there safely. If we know that that's your intention, that you're going to work at the Civic building, we want to follow that through and check that you got there safely. We're also asking your leaders to have a conversation with you about what your plans are for working if you live in a bushfire risk area on a code red or extreme fire danger day. We're going to establish a register of that just so that we know and we can check in and make sure that our staff are all safe, that they're where we think they were going to be on those days. So keep your manager informed, talk about your plans. When you see the fire danger rating come out and it's extreme or code red, refresh yourself about what it is that you need to do and how to do it. Of course, you know, there might be things that are different circumstances, exceptional circumstances. If you think that you have an exceptional circumstance arising on an extreme or code red day, please reach out and talk to us in advance so that we can do a risk assessment and work out the best option for you. And on that note, I'll hand back to Nick. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Leanne. I hope that was very clear. If you have any questions around that, then Leanne and HR are your team for that one. In any case, you'll need to talk to your manager or coordinator about your plans on code red or extreme fire danger days. Now, fire planning. The CFA and Red Cross both have great templates for bushfire planning. They're available online, so check them out. The basics are you need to make some decisions now before there's a fire that puts you under a whole lot of stress and pressure. As humans, our ability for sophisticated decision-making suffers when we're under physical and emotional stress, especially if it's a situation that's unusual or unfamiliar to us. That's why firefighters train and train and train. And no matter how much prep you've done, how ready you are, reviewing and rehearsing your plan is always worthwhile. If you think you don't need to, well, I always think about the GOAT, Gary Ablett Jr. No matter how good you are, you're still going to training. So the decisions you need to make prior to a fire are things like, what's my trigger for action? It should be based on the fire danger ratings. What sort of risk appetite do I have? That'll determine at what fire danger rating you take action. If your risk appetite is lower, your trigger for action might be severe. It might even be very high. If you're willing to take on more risk, then your trigger for action is extreme or code red. What is my action? Am I staying and defending? If so, is my property prepared? Do I have water tanks, pumps, hoses? There won't be any mains pressure from the garden taps to count that out. Does the house construction make it feasible? Anyone who's got a cedar weatherboard or house or lots of treated pine decks, I'm sorry, probably not. Are the gardens well clear of the house? Is there anything stored under the house that's going to catch fire and set the house itself alight? Am I physically fit enough? Am I emotionally prepared to take this risk? What's plan B if I can't save the house? What's plan C if that fails? If I can't save the house, how can I save myself? With all that said, you also need to understand the risk context of where your property sits in the landscape. Is it hard up against the bush? Is it a good distance away from it? There's more vulnerable areas and less vulnerable areas in each of our townships, so it's important to understand that information. That information will help inform you about what sort of action you might take at different fire danger ratings. Just quickly on staying and defending, I see it as a real all or nothing proposition. If you're there at the house, you have to successfully defend it. If the conditions are bad enough that you can't defend it and house burns, they're probably also bad enough that you won't survive. Yes, you may be able to seek shelter elsewhere, but driving through a bushfire, as we see on that chart, is an incredibly risky thing to do. To get an idea of what that might be like, jump on YouTube and search for driving through a bushfire. But do it after this video. Watch the rest of this first and then go do that. So, back to the decisions that you need to make now. Am I leaving early? Who am I going with? Where am I going? How long can I realistically stay there? These are some questions that you can answer pretty easily and make arrangements for now. For example, my trigger is extreme and above. I'll leave early. I'm going with my family and the dog. I'll go to my sister's. She's in a low bushfire risk area. I can stay there until dinner time or until the cool change comes through. And I've spoken to her about this plan. She's happy for us to lob at her place. We've also got a plan B and to see if this doesn't work out. So I've made these arrangements in advance. Neighbourhood Safer Places, or NSPs, look, they're definitely not plan A, but they can inform your planning. They should be used as a last-ditch refuge if your other plans have failed. They're not perfect, they come with their own risk, but they're better than being in an ill-prepared property or fleeing in the face of danger. There's 10 around the Shire. There's 8 locations on that map. Lorne and Anglesey have 2 each. Wherever you live, you should know if there's one in your town. Same thing for the places you work or visit regularly. This is what we always get asked. How's the season looking? So here we are. Generally pretty mild conditions as we've seen so far. La Nina weather pattern, so cooler and wetter. We do still have a bit of Jan and Feb to come through. The grass will dry out, and I can say with almost certainty there will be a fire somewhere in Victoria. But we just prepare for it if it happens here and hope that it doesn't. So that's it. Any questions about fire or emergencies, just give me a bell, or anyone else in the emergency management team. We're all happy to have a chat. For anything about the fire danger preparedness policy, Leanne Perryman and People and Culture are your team. Thanks for watching.